What's going on, Canes fans, and welcome to the final walking and venting episode of the regular season. That's right, we have arrived at number 12. But notice that I said regular season because we might have to do some more of these depending on how the CFP rankings, play out next week and potential bowl game or other things. Baby! Anyways, I want this final regular season walking and venting to be the same thing that it was last year. And that is me asking you if this season, regular season, was successful to you. Did it meet your expectations, or does it feel like a wasted season again? And that was the conclusion that I came to last year. I said it. We won 10 football games. Whoa, that's cool. Double-digit wins. But you don't play in the conference championship. You don't make it to the playoffs. And you go to the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Wasted, number one offense in the country in so many categories. But there's no reason to focus on that, right? We're talking about this year. This year, you go 10-2 again. You miss the conference championship. College football playoffs to be determined. I mean, we don't know yet, but it's still an absolute long shot. You are relying on BYU losing, Miami moving close to Notre Dame, them all of a sudden deciding that the head-to-head does matter, and then flipping last second in the final selection with the rankings. And I really should probably provide a disclaimer first before we get any deeper. This again is mostly trying to talk about the regular season here, because pending what does happen there, that could change the outlook for a lot of people. So myself included, I'm still upset. I'm still pissed that we didn't play in the ACC championship game. There's no excuse for that. We're talking about a 7-5 Duke being in there. Manny Diaz is in the ACC championship before Mario Cristobal. And that really gets me going. That gets me worked up in a bad way. However, I will say that most people would probably agree that if Miami ends up sneaking into the playoffs, again, I acknowledge a long shot, but if that were to happen, well, that could possibly change things a little bit. Some of the good things. I mean, once again, winning 10 games, that is hard to do in college football these days. It really is. And it's back-to-back 10-win seasons for the first time since joining the ACC. So that really looks like the trajectory of this program is still headed in the right direction. It is going up under Mario Cristobal. And we talked about it many times this season. Every game was competitive. Nobody blew Miami out. There can even be teams, I can't think of a specific one right now, but even if, let's say, you went 11-1, but the loss you did have, you got blown out by 30 or 40 points. That doesn't happen to Miami anymore. They were competitive. You lost by 6 and you lost by 3, and that was the exact same case last year. Lost by a total combined 9 points. Mario Cristobal has this team competing in all of their games. We're not getting embarrassed by anybody. I think that winning 10 continues to help recruiting. Now, I understand that Mario Cristobal was still recruiting at a high level even when we were winning 5 and 7 games. But you're not going to be able to maintain that unless you start winning football games. You can't consistently land top 10, top 15 recruiting classes if you're winning 5, 6, 7 games. It's not going to happen. So a lot of these recruits also see the progress and, they see the trajectory here at Miami, and they feel good enough about it that they want to enroll at Miami and play football there. So the recruiting rankings, I think, because it's signing day now, the early signing period, Miami was 13 last year. We're going to get attacked by birds, I guess. My apologies. They were 13 last year, and I think right now they are around 10. Now, there are some flips and things that could happen, so I don't want to lock it in, but they are around number 10 right now. So I think winning 10 again has a positive impact on recruiting. And look, recapping the season just a little bit, you come out week 1 and beat Notre Dame. A lot of people didn't think that could happen. It was the national championship runner-up team. And even though it feels like we're not getting enough credit for that W week 1 right now, it was still nice this season to beat Notre Dame. You run the state of Florida. You know, you beat USF. You beat the Florida Gators. You beat Florida State. Ooh, about wiped out there. That would have been good to have on camera. You discover Malachi Toney, a guy that you have to pay this man whatever he wants because he can run the football, he can throw the football, and he can catch the football. Jack of all trades, heck of an athlete. He can do anything, and we know what he's all about now. He got more and more playing time throughout the season. That's a huge bonus from the 2025 season. What else? Heatherman. The Corey Heatherman experiment, I think we can agree, was a successful one. This is a guy that I would like to have as a defensive coordinator here for a very long time. Don't want to overreact, but he had the defense flying all over the place, generating turnovers. There were some issues, but it's nothing that was such a problem that you feel like it can't be corrected, right? So I think that was a huge success. But let's shift to the bad. This is Walking and Venting. We're going to be 100% real and honest. And I'm going to come to a conclusion here at the end on if I think it was a wasted season or not. Woo! About got taken out. It's a dangerous episode today. So, back-to-back 10-win seasons. But let's be honest here. Right now, because I have to assume we're not going to be in the playoffs. Remember, we did the disclaimer. I'm sorry that I got to keep mentioning it, but I need to mention that that could change. Right now, you win 10 again, and you have nothing to show for it. And let's not forget to show some love to Sleeper, my favorite sports app. We've got some Thursday night football coming up. A huge opportunity for you to test your sports knowledge, enter the picks contest, and turn it into some real money. I'll definitely be doing that myself. Check out Sleeper. Link down in the description. It makes watching the games a heck of a lot of fun. Use code word COOP. That's COOP. That way you can activate a 100% deposit match on your first deposit up to $100. And I think that right now they're still giving $20 for free with no deposit needed. And you can also get updates on all these conference championship games. Maybe if you're on the road or you're at work, they have the quickest updates, period, on that stuff. So check them out. Shout out to Sleeper. Let's get back to the venting. It's pretty cool to beat our chest about winning 10, but for what? To sit at home and watch a 7-5 Duke led by Manny Diaz, our former head coach, versus Virginia? In what world are we talking about the Virginia Cavaliers competing for the conference championship instead of us, instead of Miami? With all the talent we have, all the money we've spent, all these big-time coaches and players, bringing a multi-million-dollar quarterback. We have nothing to show for it. Woohoo! We won 10! We're sitting at home for the conference championship and possibly for the college football playoffs. I told you we were going to look at both sides of this. You lose in the same way to the same caliber of teams that you lost to last year. And that's extremely disappointing because that starts to feel like a trend. Last year it was Georgia Tech and Syracuse, 7-5, 9-3. This year it's Louisville and SMU, two teams that are 8-4. So that kind of balances out a little bit with the records. You can't continue to do that because you win these big time games and then you continue to drop the ones that you are not supposed to, the games that you are a favorite. It just seems to show a lack of focus and maybe stubbornness from the coaches with too little too late, with adjustments and things, with the game plans. And that's just super disappointing because, again, you got to win the conference at some point. And it's just wild to live in a world where you win 10 and more than likely praying for playoffs, but more than likely you're just playing in some sort of pointless bowl game again. And I'm one of those fans that says, I still want to win it. I hate losing. In real life, too, that's just how I am. I'm a competitive person. So I don't want to see Miami lose a single game. I'll get up for the bowl game. We do the live streams. We crank the siren. We have all the fun. But at the end of the day, I don't really care that much about it. Because some players may play half the game. Some players may opt out of it. We say it all the time. It's cool to see some of the young guys. But people, Miami ain't won a bowl game and ha 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 this long. But okay, buddy. Okay, all right. You know, it just, me personally, to Coop, it's not that big of a deal. You're not playing all your starters. It doesn't really truly affect anything in the season, and that's why I most of the time just talk about the regular season when discussing these things. So there's a lot of good that came from this season, but depending on how you felt going in, it might be a bit disappointing still, because my expectations, let's revisit that for a second, were 11-1 and making it to the ACC championship game. And I was very firm in that. I said, look at the way, look at these other teams' rosters, look at our schedule, the way it lays out. There's no excuse for Miami to not be in the ACC championship game. And had they done that, we could be having a totally different discussion right now, because they would probably end up being in the playoffs. I mean, there's a chance there's no ACC team in the playoffs if Duke ends up winning it. And that's just crazy. If Miami would have been better off possibly to lose to Notre Dame, trade one of those ACC losses, they would be ranked. They'd be in the ACC championship game. It would be competitive, or more than likely they would win against a Virginia team if it were still them. And you'd be in the playoffs. So winning the ACC was so important to me. And I've said, obviously, in a way it would be forgiven if they sneak into the playoffs. Because, well, national championship is the end goal. No matter what your expectations are, everybody wants to win a national championship. It's what every team in the country is shooting for. It's what every fan base in the country wants. You want to win it all. The reality is only one team can win it all, but, this Miami team, we felt pretty loaded. 10-2, you're right there on the edge, but just not quite enough. And I expected an ACC championship game appearance in year 4 with Mario Cristobal, given the investment with everything, with the roster and the schedule. And then as we got deeper into the season, seeing the teams that were up towards the top and the teams that were struggling. So you had, teams that are typically just so dominant, you're like, there's no shot. Clemson was down. Look at some of the top dogs, SMU's going to repeat. Well, they end up going 8-4. Yeah, they beat us, but I'm just saying they took a bit of a step back from last year. It was right there for the taking. And Miami, once again, removes themselves from the driver's seat, which is the typical Miami thing to do. So at some point, I'm going to come to a close here in a moment. At some point, they got to find a way to get past that. Because for the people who say, well, Coop, chill for a second, bro. And to that I say, this is walking and venting. We're looking at both sides. This is what we do here. But I also say, you don't know what variables are going to be at play next year. So you have to make the most of each and every season. And there were so many perfect opportunities this year for everything to line up. And you come up short. And it still eats away at me right now. And it will for a while. What if next year, we catch the injury bug? Well, Coop, I guess next year maybe we won't have to deal with as many injuries. Or what if it just so happens that some of the teams we thought weren't going to be as good that we scheduled are powerhouses next year, and it's a struggle? Every season there's just so many things at play, and the ball has to bounce your way so many different times, and you need everything to go perfect. And now for it to be at the end and to see that Miami was so close, you go to OT with SMU, you barely lose to Louisville, it hurts. You know, like I said, there's so much prep work. We got to go through spring again. You got to go through the summer. You got the transfer portal, players that are going to be leaving. You got to recruit, bring guys in. Miami should have been in the ACC championship game this year, and it just really hurts. So my opinion, once again, everybody tells me to stop doing disclaimers. I'm not going to stop doing them because people pretend to listen to them, but I guess they're just not paying attention or don't want to or whatever the case is. Pending Miami being in the playoffs, if a Christmas miracle happens, I am let down a bit this year. I'm not going to go as far as saying a wasted season, like I said last year, because this team was a bit more balanced. You didn't have a top offense in the country or a top defense in the country, and that's kind of what we figured it would be, and we were okay with that as long as the defense improved to help balance it out a little bit. But I just, it's not wasted. I feel like waste is such a strong word, but I am let down. Miami did not meet my expectations at the end of the day this season. And I hope that I eat those words because they end up making it to the playoffs and trying to make a run for a national championship still. I need to go wrangle my dog. Hold on. Where were we? Yes. Disappointed. I am just a bit disappointed. I feel like there were definitely areas, though, that Miami showed improvement in this year. There were still a couple of game day blunders, but I feel like some of the game day coaching was improved a tad, especially on the tail end of the season. There was some early stuff, of course, that really pissed us off with play calling and Dawson and Mario. Is it Mario handcuffing Dawson? What's going on with the run game? And there were some things that got us upset, but there were a lot of positives this year. But I had actually, again, personally stepped up my expectations a notch. And if they don't sneak into the playoffs, you have the same record, so it feels like you just kind of stalled out there. But I guess sometimes, I understand there are fan bases that would give anything to have back-to-back 10-win seasons, even still missing the conference championship and not going to the playoffs because you got, some teams out here struggling winning 4 and 5 games. Coop, man, if we won 10, I'd be grinning ear to ear. I'd be so happy. But I had bumped up my expectations a tad, just factoring everything in this season. And being right at the 10 again, and for me, the biggest thing is the games that were lost and the way you lost them. That's just kind of ultra frustrating for me as a fan. Obviously, I love Miami. Go Canes. Orange and green for life. But I just try to be real and honest, especially in this series specifically. It's more kind of unfiltered, and I try to remind people of that. So many people, man, you got to take a chill pill. You got to stop being so negative. Again, I'm just being open with you and giving my thoughts here. And that's what I encourage people to do down in the comments as well. So I ask you, overall final thoughts on the regular season. Of course, we don't know what's going to happen here with the playoff stuff. If Miami does, in fact, get a bowl game, we don't know what bowl game it's going to be. But I'm really trying to focus on the regular season here. And just if you feel let down over it, I'd like to remind you that there's not a right or wrong answer. Please speak your mind, and I promise you it's going to be all over the place. There are people that I've already seen leaving comments saying they're ecstatic with this season, and the future is bright, given what they've seen from some of these players, and assuming that Dawson stays and Heatherman stays or whatever, right? And there are a lot of people that were jumping in live streams and saying, Coop, I'm sick and tired of this. We're just spinning tires, and here we go again. We're in the same place. So you tell me. I hope I was clear enough with mine. Just kind of disappointed, a bit let down. And it's because I had bumped up those expectations a bit. I would have liked to have won 11. Should have been in the ACC championship game, no doubt. It pains me to see Manny Diaz in there at 7-5 because of some, tiebreaker scenario. And I'm not a pro ACC guy, but then to have possibly no ACC representation, we'll see what happens with that game, is kind of just a crazy scenario, right? I just got to pray that the committee opens their eyes and they finally wake up and decide to honor the head-to-head, as they should, because that should be one of the most important factors. And we should be in there. We could hang, but we'll see. Remember though, guys, we're all one big happy college football family, but at the end of the day, I gotta say, it's always better when you get to rep the U. Coach Coop, peace out. I'll be seeing y'all in the next one.